December 29th, 2006. British Treasury writes a check to the United States. $83 million. Final installment on a debt. Not just any debt, World War II debt. 60 years of payments. Generations of British taxpayers servicing loans from a war their grandparents fought. A war they won? Supposedly. Except the financial records tell a different story. This wasn't the final payment on Allied assistance. This was the last installment on the greatest friendly foreclosure in history, on how America didn't save the British Empire, how America bought it, dismantled it, transferred global hegemony from London to Washington, not through combat, through credit agreements, through forced asset sales, through loan conditions that guaranteed sterling's collapse and dollars' rise. They taught you America rescued Britain from the Nazis. Lend-Lease is generous aid, allies standing together, democracy defending freedom, noble sacrifice. Except follow the money and you see something else entirely. You see liquidation. You see asset stripping. You see one empire deliberately bankrupting another while appearing to help. You see America doing to Britain what loan sharks do to desperate borrowers, except calling it alliance, calling it friendship, calling it aid. This is finance through time. And this is how wars between great powers are won. Not on battlefields, in treasury departments. Through loan agreements that look like assistance but function as foreclosure documents. 1939, war begins. Britain needs weapons, needs supplies, needs everything. But America is officially neutral. Neutrality acts prevent direct aid. So America creates cash and carry. You want weapons? Pay cash, up front. In gold or dollars. No credit, no loans, just immediate payment. Britain starts liquidating, selling assets, shipping gold, Operation Fish, the largest physical wealth transfer in history. British warships converted to bullion carriers, sailing across Atlantic, loaded with gold bars, with securities, with everything valuable and portable. $7 billion worth, shipped to Canada and United States, as payment for weapons, as collateral for credit, as the price of survival. 7 months. That's how long Britain's reserves lasted. 7 months of cash and carry and the treasury was empty, gold gone, securities sold, foreign assets liquidated, nothing left to pay with. And the war was just beginning. Victory wasn't close, defeat looked possible, and Britain was broke. December 1940, Churchill writes Roosevelt, the letter every debtor eventually writes, the admission of insolvency. We're out of money, can't pay anymore, need help. The empire that ruled the world begging for credit from the former colony. The power shift couldn't be more obvious, more humiliating, more total. Roosevelt's response? Send Henry Morgenthau, Treasury Secretary, not to offer aid, to conduct an audit, to verify Britain was actually broke, to ensure every British asset was sold before America provided anything. Morgenthau didn't come as ally, came as bankruptcy administrator, as liquidator, as the guy who makes sure the debtor has nothing left before the creditor assumes the loss. Morgenthau demanded proof, complete financial disclosure. Every asset, every holding, every subsidiary. He wanted to see the books, wanted verification that Britain truly had nothing left, because America wasn't giving charity, was extracting maximum value before providing minimum necessary assistance. American Vice Coast Corporation, British-owned, profitable, valuable, worth approximately $120 million. Market price, fair value, what any willing buyer would pay in normal circumstances. Except these weren't normal circumstances. Britain was desperate, needed weapons, needed them immediately, had no other options, no other creditors, nowhere else to turn. Morgenthau made it clear. Sell American Vice Coast to American buyers at American prices, or no weapons, no aid, no Lend-Lease. This wasn't negotiation, was extortion, was using Britain's desperation to force below-market asset sales. American Vice Coast sold for $54 million, less than half its value, straight to Wall Street bankers. Britain got weapons, America got assets at fire sale prices. This wasn't isolated incident, was pattern, was policy. Every British asset in America systematically undervalued and sold to American buyers at prices reflecting British desperation rather than asset quality. Lend-Lease wasn't aid, was leverage, was tool for forcing Britain to liquidate holdings at pennies on the dollar while calling it Allied cooperation. September 1940, destroyers for bases. The deal everyone knows. The deal nobody understands. America gives Britain 50 destroyers, old ships, World War I vintage, obsolete, barely functional, some leaking, some requiring extensive repair, 50 floating museums pretending to be warships. In exchange, America gets 99-year leases on British military bases, Caribbean, Atlantic, strategic locations, Bermuda, Bahamas, Jamaica, Antigua, Trinidad, Newfoundland, the jewels of British Atlantic presence, the bases that controlled shipping lanes, that projected power, that maintained imperial reach. This wasn't trade, was theft with paperwork. 50 obsolete ships for 99 years of Britain's most strategic real estate, for bases Britain built, Britain maintained, Britain defended, handed to America for scrap metal, and called fair exchange, called allied cooperation, called mutual benefit. The bases weren't leased, were surrendered. 99 years is permanent, is losing sovereignty without admitting it, is giving America what Britain fought wars to acquire, what generations of British strategy depended on for ships that barely floated, that contributed almost nothing to British defense, that were obsolete before they arrived. But Britain had no choice, needed something, anything. Even worthless destroyers were better than nothing. When you're drowning, you grab any branch, even rotten ones, even branches that cost you everything. America knew this, exploited it, systematically, ruthlessly, while maintaining the fiction of friendship. August 1945. Japan surrenders. War ends, victory achieved, allies triumphant. Except 7 days later, President Truman terminates Lend-Lease, immediately, without warning, without transition. Ships mid-ocean with supplies turn around, orders canceled. Deliveries stopped. The aid that sustained Britain for 4 years ends instantly. Britain faces catastrophe. Economy mobilized for war. Civilian production neglected. Imports essential, exports collapsed. Dependent on American supplies for basic necessities, for food, for materials, for everything. And America just cut them off completely. Right when they're most vulnerable, most dependent, most unable to adjust. John Maynard Keynes, legendary economist, architect of modern macroeconomics, sent to Washington to negotiate, to request a grant, free money, recognition that Britain sacrificed everything fighting evil, that America benefited from British resistance, that some consideration was owed beyond pure commercial terms. America's response? Loan, not grant. Loan, $3.75 billion at 2% interest. Sounds generous until you read the conditions, until you understand what America actually purchased, what Britain actually surrendered. The loan wasn't aid, was the final liquidation, the complete transfer of global financial dominance. The death warrant for sterling, the birth certificate for dollar hegemony. The loan had one condition that mattered more than all others combined. Article 7. Within 1 year, Britain must make sterling freely convertible to dollars, must allow anyone holding sterling to exchange it for dollars at will. Seems reasonable, seems like standard international finance, except it guaranteed disaster, guaranteed sterling's collapse, guaranteed dollar's dominance. Here's why. Britain was broke. Everyone knew it. The empire had nothing left. Reserves depleted, assets sold, production destroyed, debt massive. The only thing keeping sterling valuable was the fact it couldn't be sold, that holders were stuck with it, that the currency was protected by capital controls, by restrictions on conversion. Remove those restrictions and everyone sells. Immediately, everyone holding sterling knows Britain is insolvent, knows the currency is overvalued, knows it will collapse. They're just waiting for the opportunity. And America just forced Britain to give them that opportunity within 1 year. As condition of the loan Britain desperately needed, July 1947, Britain makes sterling convertible. As required, as promised, as agreed. And exactly what America knew would happen, happened. Sterling hemorrhaged. Everyone sold. Everyone bought dollars. Britain's remaining reserves evaporated. The loan America just provided disappeared within weeks, used entirely to defend sterling against the run that convertibility triggered. 5 weeks. That's how long the experiment lasted. 5 weeks of free convertibility and sterling was done. Britain reimposed capital controls, suspended convertibility, admitted defeat. The currency that ruled global trade for a century was finished, and the dollar that America protected, that America hoarded, that America carefully positioned became the new reserve currency, not through superior economy, through systematically destroying the competition. This wasn't accident, wasn't market forces, wasn't natural economic evolution, was deliberate, was planned, was executed with precision. America saw the opportunity, saw Britain's weakness, saw the path to global financial dominance, and took it, systematically, ruthlessly, while maintaining appearance of Allied support. The loan conditions that killed sterling became the template, the blueprint, the model America would export globally through International Monetary Fund, through World Bank, through structural adjustment programs that forced countries to open capital accounts, to make currencies convertible, to expose themselves to the same capital flight that destroyed sterling, all while calling it development, calling it modernization, calling it necessary reform. This is how empires transfer, not through war, through debt, through forced asset sales, through loan conditions that guarantee failure, through systematically stripping the old power while building the new, through making it look like aid, like cooperation, like alliance, when it's liquidation, when it's foreclosure, when it's one power deliberately bankrupting another while appearing to help. Germany lost the war, was occupied, was destroyed, but was debt-free, had nothing to pay. Britain won the war, kept sovereignty, but was buried in debt, spent 60 years paying, spent generations servicing loans for the privilege of victory, for the cost of survival, for becoming subordinate to the ally that saved them by purchasing them. This is finance through time. We follow the money to show you that allies are just creditors who smile. If America stripped its closest ally, Britain, this ruthlessly during depletion, do you think it treats other allies or debtor nations differently today? Are IMF policies modern occupation? Let's discuss in the comments.